Our kernel team within Canonical does the bug fixes for the current releases and also for long-term support. So we spend a lot of time fixing bugs, including some quite old versions. And the final part of it, which by no means the least important, is ensuring that any new code we are working with goes upstream. So often that is code that we've written ourselves, but increasingly it will be code that we've got from our hardware partners, and we will work with them to make the device drivers acceptable to the mainline community, help them get that code upstream. I'll take a couple of slides. There aren't many managers in the audience, so you guys pretty much know all the next two slides maybe already, but that's okay. I wanted to talk about some of the whys and hows of interacting with the free software community. One of the perceptions, or one of the things that we have often heard from companies in particular when they think about working with the free software community is that they can be quite scared. They think that the community is not very friendly, or bad things will somehow happen to them. Our experience suggests otherwise. Almost every single person that works in the free software community, particularly in the kernel side where they're really, really nice people, do really actively want companies to get involved and to work with us. So the community in that sense is nowhere near as scary as people might think. If you talk to Andrew Morton or to Linus or Greg Cohan, they're saying again and again and again, please come and work with us if you'd like some help. We are happy to help you. One of the things we try from a manager's standpoint, we think it's important to encourage engineers to participate in the community. So if you're working on hardware and want to write free software drivers, it's really important to encourage your engineers to work in the community. Given that there are so many managers in the room, for you as engineers, it is more finding ways to convince your manager to let you do this. However, whereas a few years ago it was quite hard to find help with this, nowadays I think it's become much easier. It's possible to get free help by working through the mailing list or just getting involved with the community directly. But it's now possible to get this sort of assistance and mentoring on more of a commercial basis, and vendors such as Canonical, for example, we will actually work with our partners and help them get involved with the community and do what they need to do. In terms of the why, the final why, there's many benefits in the long run. If you have your device drivers or your project open source and out working in the community, you're getting your code reviewed by more than just the engineers in your organisation. So you get hundreds, if not thousands, of people participating and helping you fix bugs in your code. For device drivers in particular in the kernel, this kernel is where I spend most of my time, you get the benefit if your code is in the community that you get help from the community in ongoing maintenance. So if something changes in another part of the kernel that affects your driver, then someone will help you make the relevant changes to your device driver. And finally, and I think this is an important point, even though it is maybe a softer point in some ways, it's just the right thing to do. If you're a hardware vendor or a manufacturer that is, or even an end user that is enjoying the benefits of free software, it is the right thing to try and contribute back where you're possibly able to. With a few observations for companies now when it comes to interacting with the community more on the how, the sorts of things you can do to make this process easier. One of the most important is because ultimately a lot of our work is dealing with source code, so source code is a really important part of what we do, obviously. I think it's very important that you use, wherever you possibly can, the same tools as the project you're working on. So if you're looking at writing kernel device drivers, it will make no sense for you to use Git for your version control, because it will make it so much easier to get code into the kernel. We appreciate that often this means that maybe your company has been using some other source code management system, so you must train your engineers to use Git instead, but we have found on a number of occasions now, if this has paid off, it has been so much easier in the long term for people to stay working with the community. So you choosing the same tools is really quite important. Similarly, if you're working in a user space application that uses BZR or SVN, consider very seriously using those same tools just to make it simpler to move the code backwards and forwards. Similarly for testing and debug, find out the projects or that you're working on, or if you're working on the kernel, find out the tools that are being used and adopt those yourselves. Fitting into the culture or the rules of the community, the open source community is very, very important. We think nothing of working within societal norms, so we behave in a particular way when we're in a social community. It is the same in the free software development community. It's important to understand the way it works and try and live by those same rules. This concept of releasing or discussing releasing early and releasing often, or discussing projects early, is very, very important. It's a much better end result if, rather than working on your project by yourself, then suddenly popping up and saying, hey, it's all finished and all working, it's all here. It makes much, much more sense if you discuss what your intentions much, much earlier on. So we would really encourage you, it's very, very important on the kernel, as it is with other projects, to discuss what you're wanting to do with the relevant community as soon as you can. You may find someone else is planning on doing the same thing already, or maybe they've already started. You can actually collaborate with them rather than ending up with two different implementations and perhaps wasting some effort. When it comes to the practicalities of submitting patches or submitting code to a free software project, each different project has its own guidelines for that, and kernel documents that understand the project have their own ways of doing things. We would encourage you to read and understand the preferred way of submitting these patches or submitting this code into the community, because it will simplify the whole process if you do it the way people are expecting. And on a related note, the whole issue of coding styles, we use a lot of different programming languages within the free software community, though C is probably still the most common, particularly in kernel and kernel space. Find out the preferred way of styling a code and try and work in that particular manner. Now, having said that, the general consensus, I think, on the kernel side is we would rather have something than nothing. Ideally, we would rather have a really nicely written patch or device driver that conforms to all the coding styles and does everything the right way. But if it's maybe not there yet, we would still rather see it and help you work with it than have you think, oh, maybe it's not so good, like I should not contribute yet. Staying involved is important. So when you submit code into a free software project, don't just throw it over the wall and then walk away and forget about it. Stay involved and make sure the code stays in the tree, or if there are changes suggested, then you do actually come back and make it what's changed. If you're a hardware vendor and you are wanting device drivers written for your particular piece of hardware or to do some particular feature, remember who your audience is. Most of us are sort of hardware geeks at heart. So quite often, if you will supply someone a piece of hardware, they will help write a device driver for it. Greg Hartman is one of a number of people who has led an initiative for a number of years now where they pretty much say if you give them a few copies of a few pieces of hardware and specifications, they will write a device driver for you. It's pretty hard to beat. And similarly, there are companies that will provide that service with admittedly at a fee, but will also provide support and ongoing benefits from that. So to conclude with a few sort of rallying around remarks, I've been fortunate enough to work in free software for 10 years now as a paid thing, and for probably another 5 years on top of that because I thought it was the right thing to do. I firmly believe, and I suspect the fact you're here, you would be of a similar view that Linux and free software really is the way forward. We have a real opportunity to influence where the industry goes. This is my fourth trip to Taiwan, and I fall more and more in love with the place every time I come here, I must say. But for you as free software developers working in Taiwan, I think you should not underestimate how much influence you have on the future of our industry simply because you're based here where so much of the manufacturing and development is being done. It's exactly the same for our colleagues in the community who are working in mainland China. There's this huge opportunity for you guys to really push the free software agenda. From a dollars and cents standpoint, free software is going to become increasingly important because the hardware margins are becoming cheaper. So if we can, as we already can now, provide a solid, reliable, interesting, feature-rich software environment for basically no money, that's going to be good news for hardware manufacturers. The transition isn't always easy, and as I mentioned, there are lots of different ways that can be accomplished, but there are Canonical is one of a number of companies now who will actually help you with that. So if you're a commercial organisation and want help with that sort of process, there's something that there are companies out there to do.